What's up, and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where we're bringing it back to my very first experience with all of these Chucky movies, which I've never seen before. Today is Child's Play 2, or as I would like to consider it, Chucky 2. If you saw my review for the first movie, you know that I'm not a huge fan of it, mostly because I don't really like possessed dolls, but also because from a cinematic standpoint, it's not exactly a masterpiece. There's nothing that really stood out to me other than maybe the look of Chucky, the animatronic and puppetry work, maybe, of Chucky that really does stand out, but it's not enough for an entire movie to be spectacular. In this movie, you have to understand that Chucky is back. How? Because he died in the end of the first movie. But let's be clear here, if you haven't seen Chucky 1, why would you watch a review of Chucky 2? But you know, just like any good classic horror film character, they never die, right? So he dies, and for the most part, they recycle him, and that's how he comes back to life. They find his corpse rotting away 2 years later. They scrape him down to his bare bones, pluck his eyes out, give him some new skin, give him some new hair. They did a really bad job cleaning his teeth, but you know what? I digress. He's back, and he is eviler than ever, and you know what? He's after the same thing he was in the first movie. So let's talk about some of the good things associated with this movie, because I do actually think it did something very, very good. It took a step in the right direction in tone and feel. I believe that the first movie took itself way too seriously, because when you're talking about a movie about a possessed doll, you can't take it too seriously, especially if you're going to focus so much on that doll. Instead, this movie's a little bit more campy, a little bit more corny, and that's good because that's exactly what freaking Chucky is. I don't think it was as much of a leap as I would have liked to see as far as the change went, but even a little step gets me a little bit excited to see the other movies, because if it keeps going that direction, it could be something that I'm proud to watch. As always, the animatronic and puppetry work is very, very well done with Chucky, specifically in this movie. You can obviously tell what's going on because it is kind of a classic older movie, and you can always tell when you use animatronics on something that's made that way. But I'm starting to understand how you perceive this character as just weird in general, and that animatronics movements, that's part of what makes him weird. I'm much more happy to hear the voice in this movie than I was in the first one. It's starting to feel more iconic, but that's just because if they cast somebody else, it would have just sounded stupid. So casting him again and making it more campy and corny definitely made it feel a little bit more iconic, definitely more in the range of what I was expecting from day one. And speaking of people reprising their roles, Andy Barclay. That wasn't something that I was really expecting, and I'm happy that they did it, because he's kind of the alter ego of Chucky almost. Chucky needs him, and he needs Chucky. Oh, he doesn't need Chucky, I guess, but Chucky definitely needs him, because that's part of the mythos. And I'm glad that they brought back that mythos, because that is kind of the heart of this film, in my opinion. Also, bringing back Andy Barclay was really, really good when it comes down to selling the fact that this is an official sequel rather than a money-grabbing sequel, which we would see in a million other classic horror films. So in general, there's a lot of good things that are associated with this movie, but it's not enough, in my opinion. Let's talk about some of the bad. I guess the main thing that I have to say about this movie when it comes down to negatives is the fact that it is not inspired. It is nothing new. It is literally the same exact plot as the first movie. Basically, the Chucky doll, it's becoming human, it's bleeding, and if it does that too much, it becomes trapped in this Chucky doll. So in order to fix that, he must transfer his soul to Andy's body. Same exact plot as the first one, but that idea wasn't introduced until towards the end of the first one, while it's more towards the beginning of this one, which helps the narrative feel a little bit more balanced than the first movie, but it's still not the greatest narrative. Also, the entire plot, even after being stolen from the first movie, makes zero sense to me, because the entire thing is Chucky even says to himself, "I'm becoming human. I'm screwed if this happens." So how do you fix the problem of becoming human? By becoming human. By transferring your soul into a human boy. And being human again. Kinda dumb. And then we start to have some dumb character choices in this movie, like Andy Barclay, who was tortured by this Chucky doll in the first movie, sees this new Chucky doll in this new foster home that he's in, picks it up, and starts carrying it around with him like it's his new favorite friend. Are you stupid, Andy? Andy's not the only one. At the end, whenever I look at any sequel at all, I look for a couple things. One, is it something that people wanted to see? And two, does it add anything new? At this point in time, I don't think anybody actually wanted to see this movie. The first one told a complete story, but at the same time, it came out in an era of classic slasher horror films, so maybe people did want to see it. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think I would have wanted to see it if I saw it when it first came out. And does it add anything new? Like I said, it completely revamps the same exact plot of the first movie, so no, there is nothing new about this movie. That on its own is kind of disappointing to me because that's one thing that classic horror films have always been able to do really, really cleverly. Come up with something really subtle and small, but enough to feel like it's a brand new concept. That's what these horror movies have always done. This one, not so much. It's the same exact plot as the first movie. That kind of bothers me. But like I said, I do like the direction that it's heading. I like the idea that it might be getting campier as it goes along. As long as it does that, it can get really, really self-aware, and self-aware is a very, very good thing to be in this type of movie. My score for it is 57%, which means that I did rank it slightly lower than my score of the first movie. If you like the Chucky franchise, if you've seen this movie and are a fan or hate it, whatever, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. And as for YouTube, you know what to do. You can subscribe, you can like it, and you can hit the little bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out.